That's what I like too about a lot of your work is it's this reclaiming of pleasure, reclaiming of bliss, and you're calling it like this creation energy, which obviously, right? Like you say it and you're like, obviously, but somehow we are saying like we're unworthy of it, we're undeserving of it. We can only have it if we're using that to create a literal baby.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, even with some of the more Eastern practices, which is we were talking about last night, if you just got rid of your desires and your wants, then you would be happy. And
Mm-hmm.
I love what you said, because I was like, I felt like I was the only one that had this perspective, which is you're not being a human. Like, why are you here as a human then if you're not going to want to enjoy all of life and what it has to offer? So
Yeah.
this is almost giving you permission to reclaim that and say like, you're allowed to enjoy pleasure. Like, that's not off limits. No one's in
Yes.
control of it.
Yeah, it's yours actually. And
Mm-hmm.
guess who gave it to you? Nature.
Mm-hmm.
Like God gave you this stuff. You think it's like, hey, I'm going to give you like this whole internal pharmacy of like bliss and love and joy and ecstasy. But if you use it, you're going to burn in hell.
Right.
Like what? Like, would you ever give your child a toy to play with that you didn't want them to use?
Right.
No.
No.
And yet we think that that's what God did for us. It's just like, who said and why? and like, truly, like, who is trying to get power from divorcing us from our own divinity? Like, who, gains from us forgetting that we can plug into the divine through our own bliss chemistry, through our own internal pharmacology.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that people who know and practice the ability to like tap in and cultivate their own divinity are very hard to control. So like sex and sexuality has been conditioned and shamed the same way that psychedelics have, because like they're both pathways to the divine and both very potent and powerful medicines and need to be used with care and with guidance and with love and with respect and with honor. And so I get it. Like it's not just like have fun, do whatever. I mean, we can all do whatever, but there are consequences to that. Every choice has a consequence to it. And so it's like, how do we simultaneously honor the profundity and the power of these tools without spiraling people into shame and compartmentalization and trauma, like unnecessary trauma?
So we know that like the first couple of chakras, especially your root chakra, is associated with survival, right? And safety and security. Are there certain people that maybe should you be practicing pleasure prayer or anything kind of associated with that if you don't have the foundation of safety and security, like if that's not solid?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I guess I would offer that. So just to define pleasure prayer is basically like where you're getting really clear on a vision, like something that you'd love to create. And then you're starting to build this creation energy in the body from the root, like from your, what I call the hoo-ha. I'm trying to reclaim the word hoo-ha, which I would define as both the anatomy and the energy center, and it includes all genders. So you're building that pleasure, that creation energy from your hoo-ha up into your heart and then up into your head. And then once you go into those peak states, those ecstatic or orgasmic states, it's almost like you're dedicating that energy and that pleasure to the dream, to the thing that you're looking to manifest. So that's the practice of pleasure prayer. And I would say that if you don't feel safe in your body, then it might be more challenging to practice that. But I'm not going to say that you should not, right? Because I think that orgasm is outrageously healthy. You know, it like improves our immune system, our skin elasticity, our endocrine function, our hormone function. Like all of these things get better when we orgasm. And so I think it can be very healing. But just like we were saying earlier, it's like if you're accessing something, certainly if there's sexual trauma involved, then it can be re-traumatizing. So then the first question really becomes, how do I create safety in my body? How do I learn to feel safe in my body? And that might be a first order of business before someone can move into it. Just like with meditation, like it's rare, but I do sometimes encourage people not to start Ziva. Like if they've had very severe recent trauma, if they have never done meditation, if they've never done therapy, if they've never done any mindfulness practices, because Ziva is so potent, because it is so powerful at catharsis, because it's actually healing your body from the accumulated stress that we have in our cells, that if people are just like a bag of trauma with no tools, I'm like, I don't think you should start right now, because likely that catharsis is not going to be worth it. It's going to create more suffering. And so the same can be true with pleasure practices. So and it's not like don't do them. It's like just start with the foundation of resourcing yourself and making sure that you know how to feel safe.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was curious if it would maybe affect the way that you either see what you're wanting to manifest, or in like that shavasana state, if that would affect your perception of downloads or whatever like comes to mind while you're just being still.
Yeah, I mean, certainly all of us can only operate from our own state of consciousness.
Right,
and we all are a collection of, enlightenments and traumas and our parents and our inherited stuff and our epigenetics. And, we all are a product of nature and nurture. Mm-hmm. So certainly the desires will be shaped by our consciousness. And then what we're able to hear and receive will be shaped by our consciousness. Mm-hmm. But just like you wouldn't tell someone not to exercise, it's just like, well, I might not be able to lift 350 pounds at the gym, but I could lift 50, so it's like just start where you are. And then we keep practicing, we keep getting stronger.